In Season 4, Episode 3, the town holds a double funeral. One grave is for Jim Matthews. The other is for a pastor the town believes died of a seizure and a broken heart. That is not how he died. He was smothered, 2 episodes earlier, by the teenage girl who was standing in the crowd with her head bowed, playing the grieving daughter. Sophia is the man in yellow. The pastor was never her father. He was away inside, a respectable man whose presence made a stranger look safe at the sheriff's station. So this is the situation at the graveside. Boyd Stevens stands up to say what happened to 2 men. One of those accounts is true. The other is a cover story being read over a murder victim while the murderer listens. And that is the exact moment the crows come into town. Not to the tree line, not to the border, into the streets, onto the rooftops, in daylight, in numbers. They don't attack anyone. They don't touch anyone. They scream until Boyd can't be heard. The ceremony breaks. The town rushes the burial and gets indoors. Julie watches them circle and says they don't look like they're mourning. She says they look like they're celebrating. Kenny confirms in the diner afterward that this has never happened before. Now, the popular reading online is that the crows were warning the town about Sophia. I understand why. It's the obvious read. I don't think it's right. A warning is about the future. A warning says something is coming. Nothing was coming. It had already happened. The man in the ground was already dead, and the thing that killed him was already inside. Those birds did not arrive to warn anybody about anything. They arrived at a lie being read over a body, and they made it impossible to finish. Here is the new theory in one sentence. The crows are not an omen, and they are not the ghosts of dead residents. They are the only party in From that treats what happened in this town as a crime, and they show up when someone takes over the story of a life that isn't theirs. Everyone thinks From is a puzzle about getting out. I think From is an unprosecuted murder, and the entire show is about the fact that nobody can get a statement out of the crime scene. Look at how the town handles information. The monsters wear the faces of dead people. The man in yellow's method is the false account. He wears a priest, wears a girl, performs grief, and tells people the cruelest lie in the show, that none of this is real, and they should stop trying to survive it. That lie is his weapon, and it has killed people. Arrivals show up with no context. Tabitha and Jade had to be forced to remember their own previous lives. Victor knows more than anyone and can barely get a sentence out. The record survives as drawings, objects, and a song. The children's entire statement is one word. Every channel of information in Fromville is either corrupted, incomplete, or under someone else's control, except one. The crows can't be worn. They can't be bribed. They can't be made to forget, because corvids are the one thing in this ecosystem that actually remembers faces, and they can't speak. That last part is not a weakness in the theory. It is the theory. Hold on to it, because it's where this ends up. Go back to the very first episode. The Matthews family is in the car. Ethan is scared. Julie decides to make it worse. She tells him that a group of crows is called a murder, and that they're going to peck at him in his sleep. Jim tells her to knock it off. Tabitha says she thinks those birds were ravens, and a group of ravens is called an unkindness, and gives her daughter a pointed look. In Season 1, that plays as a family being a family. A teenager needling her little brother. A mother shutting it down with a fact. Now read it with everything we learned in Season 3. The crime at the bottom of this town has 2 halves. Children were killed in the dark. That is the first half. They were killed by the people who were supposed to protect them, in exchange for something those people wanted. That is the second half, and it is the half that actually built this place. The betrayal is what the show is about. Everything the children left behind, the symbol, the trees, the word, comes out of being destroyed by people they trusted. A murder and an unkindness, 2 collective nouns for birds. Also the 2 exact charges. The pilot puts both of them on the table inside 60 seconds, in the mouths of the 2 Matthews women who turn out to matter most. The one who is Miranda reincarnated, and the one who can walk into earlier chapters of the story. Neither of them had any idea. That's what makes it a plant rather than a hint. And watch the shape of that scene, because it comes back. Julie starts telling a story about the birds. Her father cuts her off. The telling doesn't finish. Keep that in your head. It's going to happen 3 more times. One more thing from the pilot. The crows are at the fallen tree. That's where the road stops being a road. That's the threshold, the place where your version of your own life ends, and the town's version begins. Kenny confirms in Season 4 that this is their normal, understood behavior. Crows at the tree, greeting arrivals. Everybody knows it. Nobody thinks about it. For 4 seasons, the crows had a post, and the post was the border, not the town. Here's where it turns. If the crows were an alarm system, they would be a nightly presence. Fromville is dangerous every single night. People are lured, taken, and killed in front of their families over and over. The crows are not part of that. They are not in the danger. They are not in the rescues. They are not at the windows when the creatures come knocking. So track where they actually show up, and a much narrower pattern falls out. They show up when someone other than the person who lived a life is about to declare what that life means. The fallen tree is the first version. You know where you were going. You have an account of your own trip, your own week, your own future. You drive around that tree, and the account is void. Your story now belongs to the town. The crows are standing there when it happens. Season 3, Episode 3 is the second version, and it's the strangest one. Tilly gives Fatima a tarot reading in Colony House. Tilly's cards have a track record. She says they told her about her cancer and about ending up here, and she didn't believe them at the time. She's turning cards about Fatima's pregnancy, and a crow flies into the window, shatters the glass, and dies within seconds. Look at the cost of that. Whatever these things are, one of them spent a body to stop a sentence. Now, plenty of people think Tilly was compromised. Maybe. I'm not building on that, because I don't need it. Sincere or not, here is what was happening in that room. A woman was about to be told, by somebody else, what was growing inside her before she knew it herself. Someone else was taking authorship of her future and her child's. The crow interrupted that and paid for it. And then Season 4, Episode 3 is the pure version. No ambiguity at all. The town gathers to make an official account of 2 deaths. One of those accounts is authored by the person who caused the death. The murderer is standing there, wearing the victim's daughter as a costume, and every single person present believes her. That is authorship of someone's death, stolen as completely as it can be stolen. And for the first time in the history of the town, all of them come. Not one bird against a window. All of them, onto the roofs, over the graves, loud enough that the man holding the service cannot be heard. They did not stop Sophia. They did not expose her. They did not point. They stopped the eulogy. The town's official version of that man's death could not be spoken out loud. Julie called it celebrating. She's closer than she knows, and she has the tone wrong. It isn't celebration, it's objection. Loud, ugly, useless objection, which is what an accusation sounds like when it has no words in it. There's a second reason I don't think the crows belong to the man in yellow, and it's the most exposed he's ever been. His entire power set is identity. He is a nurse, an old man, a teenage girl. He is a shapeshifter, whose real skill isn't the shape, it's the credential. He didn't wear the pastor. He brought the pastor because arriving next to a priest makes a stranger trustworthy. Then he killed him and wore the grief instead. Everything in this show can be worn. A face, a voice, a role, nurse, waitress, mechanic, neighbor, father, daughter. He has never appeared as a crow. He has never spoken through one. He has never called one. Across 4 seasons, we have never once seen a bird do what he wanted. A lot of recaps assumed he summoned them to the funeral, and that's a reasonable guess, but the episode doesn't show it. What the episode shows is him asking Kenny about them. Kenny brings him coffee. He asks whether the crows normally behave like that. Sit with how strange that is. The oldest thing in this story, the shapeshifter who has been here since the beginning, is asking a deputy of a few years to explain the local wildlife. He is gathering intelligence about his own environment, and then he immediately does the thing he always does. Kenny says no, this is new, so he asks when things changed, and steers it toward the idea that the trouble started when the Matthews family arrived, the same wedge he drives into Julie in the diner. That's the tell. He can't stop the objection, so he reattributes it. He makes the town believe the birds are about the newcomers. When you can't silence a witness, you attack the witness's credibility. He's been doing that all season. Also worth noting, in the same episode, Victor finds the discarded yellow suit lying in the woods, the physical proof that the girl at the funeral is a costume. There's a crow there too. The birds keep turning up next to the evidence. They just can't tell anyone what it means. Everything up to this point is on screen. Now I'm going to tell you what I think the crows actually are, and this is the part one can't prove. Start with a rule the show established itself in the Season 3 finale. In From, a feeling that has nowhere to go becomes a thing. The children were told a story that gave them hope. They poured that hope into the roots. Those roots became the symbol Jade spent 2 seasons decoding, and they became the faraway trees, and one of them grew into the bottle tree standing over the grave. That's not fan reading. That's the show's own physics. Hope got a body, and the body is made of wood. So account for the rest of it. Because hope was not the only thing that happened in that dark, and I'm going to say this part carefully. They were children. Someone they loved and trusted took them out there. The last kind thing that happened to them was that somebody told them a story. Then the people who told them stories killed them. The hope went into the roots. We know where the hope went. The telling didn't go anywhere. There was nobody left to tell it to. nobody who would say what had been done, and nobody left alive who wanted it said. My leap is that the crows are that. They're the part of the children that was still trying to tell someone. It got a body like the hope did, and the body it got has no words in it. Check it against what we've actually seen. They gather at trees. The trees are where the rest of the children went. They gather at bodies, at graves, and at the exact moment, the story of a death is being handled. They aren't powerful. This is the part people skip. In the tunnels under the town, Tabitha and Victor walk past a dead crow being eaten by mice. Whatever these things are, they die down there, and small ordinary animals eat them. That is not a guardian spirit. That's a leftover. And I love that scene for another reason. Tabitha sees the dead bird and wants to turn back. Victor tells her they have to go through and be brave. The woman who has come back lifetime after lifetime to save these children flinches at the sight of one dead bird. The son of her previous life keeps walking. Then there's the word, Ankui, remembering. Remembering is not a private act. Nobody needs to be asked to remember something that only happens inside their own head. When you ask to be remembered, you are asking for someone to say what happened, out loud, to somebody who will listen. The children have been asking for that for generations, and the only voice they got is one that cannot make a single word, which is exactly why they lose their minds at a funeral. A funeral is the one place a town gathers on purpose to say out loud what happened to a person. That is the only proceeding in Fromville that resembles the thing the children have been asking for. And the first time the town held one with a murderer running the story, all of them came. Now count the pattern up, because this is what the whole show is built out of. Julie's story about the crows gets cut off by her father in the first 10 minutes of the series. Tilly's reading gets cut off by a bird through the glass. Boyd's eulogy gets cut off by 100 of them. From does not let anybody finish an account of death, and once you see it in the crows, you see it everywhere. The priest died in the first season, and now turns up as a voice instead of a witness. Jim was killed by the man in yellow mid-project, then came back in season 4 only to hand Ethan a fragment, go find the Lake of Tears, with no explanation of what it was for. Victor has been here longest, knows most, and the single most common complaint in this fandom is that he won't just say it. That isn't bad writing, that's the mechanism. Boyd's method is to gather everyone's belongings and look for the pattern in objects, because objects are the only testimony he can get that doesn't lie to him. And the children, after everything, have one word. Not a sentence. One word, repeated, for generations. Now here's the part 1 I'd want you to take out of this video. There is exactly one telling in the history of this story that was allowed to finish. Somebody who loved those children told them a story that gave them hope. That one landed. It completed. It went into the ground, and it is still holding the shape of this entire town. The symbol, the trees, the tree over the grave, the reason anyone gets rescued at all. Every telling since has been cut off. That's not a haunted town. That's a machine with one function, making sure the truth about what was done here never gets said all the way through by anyone the living will believe. And the crows are what's left of the one voice that never got to try. So the goal changes. Escape was never the win condition. The boy in white has been saying a version of this the whole time. The answers to the end are in the beginning. That's not a riddle about geography. That is what you tell someone who needs to go back and check the record, which reframes the season 4 finale. They got the bones. They tore the bottle tree out of the ground to do it. It broke day and night. It brought red lightning. It collapsed tunnels. And it cost lives. And it did not end the town. I don't think that's a stall. I think it's the point. Bones are not testimony. A body proves that someone died. It cannot say who did it, or why, or what they were promised in exchange. The children never asked for rescue. They asked to be remembered. Under this frame, here is the roster. The children are victims, whose statement was never taken. The crows are the witness, with no language. Tabitha and Jade are the two who refused to sign the deal, sent back lifetime after lifetime to give evidence, and stripped of their memory every single time so they arrive unable to testify. Victor is the longest-serving witness in the building and the least able to be heard. Boyd is the man who keeps trying to hold the proceeding together, and who literally gets drowned out. Julie is the one who can reach parts of the record nobody else can access. The monsters are the accused, still walking around in the faces of people they killed, still smiling. And the man in yellow is not the judge and not the devil. He's the defense. His whole job in every season is to make sure the account never closes. That's why he lies about reality itself. That's why he trades in false faces. That's why he spends season 4 turning residents against each other instead of killing them. A town at war with itself never gets around to saying what happened. This theory makes specific things testable in season 5. First, when the crows return, they will return around an account of a death, a burial, a confession, a reading, an interrogation, not around ordinary night danger. If they start showing up as a generic monster alarm, I'm wrong about the pattern. Second, somebody is finally going to try to read them instead of fear them. My money is on Jade, because decoding is his function, and because he now knows the symbol came from the children. Third, the bones alone will not end it. Expect the recovered remains to raise the question of what happened rather than answer it, and expect the season to turn on somebody being made to say it out loud. Fourth, the man in yellow will keep attacking the witness rather than the testimony. He has already started converting the crows into a rumor about the Matthews family. I expect that to escalate into residents deciding the birds are the enemy. Somebody in that town is going to kill a crow, and it will be treated as a victory. Fifth, and this is the specific test for the back half of my theory. Expect a crow to do something a bird cannot do. A word, a stillness at the wrong moment, a reaction to the children's name. If the crows are a voice that was never allowed to speak, the show will eventually let one of them almost manage it. Now the falsifiable test. Plainly. If season 5 shows the man in yellow commanding the crows, calling them, sending them, speaking through one, or being obeyed by one, this theory is dead, not incomplete, wrong. The entire frame depends on them being outside his control, and the show can kill it in a single shot. It also dies if the crows turn out to be the creatures in another form, or their spies. Both of those are live fan theories, and both of them break this completely. And a softer failure? If the crows are revealed as the souls of dead residents, Jim, Abby, the people we've watched die, then the accusation half survives in weaker form, but the children half is finished. I want to be straight about that, because it's the most likely way I'm partly wrong. Here's my honest, open question. Why the border? For 4 seasons, they held one post, the fallen tree, greeting arrivals, and nowhere else. Then in season 4, they came into the streets. Either something let them in, or they gave up on the border because the border stopped being where the story was. I don't know which. And I think the answer to that is bigger than the crows. I'll add one thing I'm watching but refuse to build on. Elgin wore a crow on his shirt for most of the run, and Elgin is dead now. A costume choice is not evidence, and I'm not going to pretend it is. But if the finale of this show puts a bird anywhere near him, I'll be sitting up. Go back to that graveside one more time. 2 holes in the ground, 1 true death, and 1 lie. A murderer in the front row with her head bowed, being handed condolences. Boyd opens his mouth to say what happened to 2 men, and for the first time in the history of this town, the birds come off the tree line and into the streets and make it impossible. Julie thought they were celebrating. They were doing the only thing available to them, and the show told us what they were called in its first 10 minutes. A murder, an unkindness. 2 names for birds that are also the 2 halves of the crime this entire town was built to bury. Given to us by a teenage girl trying to scare her brother, and a mother trying to calm him down. Neither of them knew they were reading out the charges. The children asked one thing. Remember, nobody in Fromville can finish a sentence about the dead. Not the priest, not Jim, not Victor, not Boyd. So the loudest thing in that town is a bird that has been trying to say one word for generations at the top of its voice in a language nobody has bothered to learn. If that changed how the funeral scene reads to you, subscribe, because season 5 is the last one, and I don't think this show ends with an escape. I think it ends with a statement.